Thank you both for being with us today. Dr. Kai, let me start this discussion with you. We know that Udacity is an online platform that offers courses in mainly data science and technology focused. And you offer something that is called nano degrees. Can you tell us more about your platform?
Yeah, no, happy to do so. So Udacity is now more than a decade old and was one of the early pioneers in the field of education technology. And as you described, we train many of the typical Silicon Valley skills, AI, data analytics, etc. We do this for individuals, we do this for companies, but we also do it for governments to upskill entire populations. So we've been here in the Middle East since 2017. We actually have 1/3 of our entire staff based here in the Middle East. And we work with, in Abu Dhabi, we work in Dubai, together with Dubai. One of the big successes that we've done was the initiative to create 1 million Arab coders. And we're also very proud to work with Jahiz.
So you collaborate with the governments for the students and even for the government employees?
Exactly. So we do both the upskilling of government employees and we do the upskilling of entire populations. So that can have different forms and different strategic goals that a country can have. For example, in Egypt, we have a large program where we train freelancers with the goal of especially bringing foreign currency into Egypt. So, for example, we've trained more than 200,000 Egyptians, which now has brought more than $250 million foreign currency into Egypt by these people becoming freelancers and then working for international corporations. In other countries, here in Dubai, also in Saudi Arabia, the goal is more focused on building a local industry and really bringing the talent here and using that to attract companies and to build ecosystems around it. So it's a little bit different, the way the goals are for different countries, but it's a very important sector for us.
We can't have EdTech without having the internet. So tell us more about your foundation. What's the purpose of this foundation?
Thank you. I co-founded the Web Foundation 14 or 15 years ago with my husband, Tim Berners-Lee, who's the inventor of the web. And at that time, we felt that the web was getting stronger, but not more widely distributed. I think at that point, there was 20% of the world was on the web. Now the number is about 62% or greater than 6 billion people. And I guess in some way we could claim victory and go home, but the web has become a very complicated place with a lot of its challenges.
Where is your focus of work?
Thanks. So we focus on 3 specific areas. We do a lot of work on gender rights on the web. We convene civil society, victims, corporates. And in fact, the year before last, we were able to get social media to change their behavior. So specifically, Twitter, Instagram, and one other, we were able to convene and put pressure on the companies to change the way they do technology. So, for example, on Strava, women were going for a run in Central Park. They would be followed because the data was open. We got them to close it. On Instagram, young women in perhaps developing countries, we have some specific cases where they posted pictures of themselves online without education and had serious impact to their life with 10,000 negative messages of feedback. And then Twitter, both politicians, high-profile women, I think the statistic is 85% of women either have or know people who've been abused online. So trying to switch that based on the technical specification, and the companies were very forthcoming, and we managed to get them to switch it.
You're an AI expert, and when you look at the services and the courses that are offered by companies like Udacity, do you think that they fill the gap when it comes to the skills that are needed by the workforce?
Well, I'm not specifically familiar with Udacity, but I think these courses are critical because government transformations then give rise to societal transformation. And I've spent a lot of time over this past day or two meeting with digital government leaders who all are interested in upskilling. AI courses can be short. I mean, one of the challenges, the technology is moving so quickly that the challenge is to keep updated. So it's very important that the courses are short and engaging. I think 87% of employees will stay longer if they're educated. So in fact, it's the reverse that you would think. They're very interested in having these online courses. But the speed of change is the biggest challenge.
Dr. Kai, the question is always, we are seeing a growing number of the big tech companies. They are accepting people, and they are accepting workers without an actual university degree. So do you think that a platform like Udacity can replace a university degree?
I think you have to look at this from two different perspectives. One is the education that we provide is very focused on the exact practical skills and capabilities that people need to be successful in a job. And those can be in addition to university degrees, or they can replace a university degree. IBM recently stated, and this is very much in line with what you just said, that the average time that you stay current with a skill is 2.5 years. Well, how does it work if you have a 4 or 5 year degree that you're doing? So kind of a number of those skills that you've learned might already be expired. So it's about making sure you build those skills, but then also you need to stay current as you move through your career. But there's also another challenge I want to highlight. If you look at open positions in the United States and job offers that are out, 80% of them require a college degree. 30% of people in the United States have a college degree. So what we also have to think about is we have to think about how do we close that gap of people that don't have a college degree but that want to get into a career. And I think that's also where we want to do our part in helping people fill that gap, get those exact skills they need to be successful in their career, and then get those jobs.
But to students that are taking your courses, are they accepted in the big tech companies? Can you give us examples?
Yeah, so our content is generally developed together with industry experts. So some of our content we're developing directly with large tech companies. You've mentioned Google, Amazon, and others. And some of our content we use experts from those organizations that are really top in their field, who we develop the content for. That's why ultimately the skills that are being built are exactly what those companies need and what you need to be successful in that field. And that's ultimately where we also see that our graduates get hired. I can also share an example with you of one of our B2B customers that I think is doing a phenomenal job in how they think about skills and skilling, and that's Shell. And what Shell has done is that they really look at capabilities that people build and skills, and they've turned that into a currency inside the company. So if you want to qualify for certain jobs and certain careers within the organization, they look at what capabilities and what skills do you have, and they see our degrees and as the ultimate currency to demonstrate that you have those skills, and that's then what qualifies people in to get the promotion, the next job, etc.
Rosemary, probably the biggest challenge in these degrees and whenever it is that you're learning online is keeping the student engaged or keeping the government employees engaged when they are trained with these courses. Which strategy can be applied so that you can benefit in a better way from such programs?
So I think there are a lot of challenges with EdTech that Kai's talked about. Sort of lack of familiarity with tech is one of them, comprehensive training and support. Hallucinations are also a big issue when you're using AI in training. And I think hallucinations, as you know, when you have large language models, you might have some data. For example, if you ask a large education model, how many people live on Mars, it might say 2 billion because it's read a science fiction book that says there are 2 billion people on Mars. So I work for a company called Sandbox AQ, which spun out of Google about 18 months ago. It's an independent company. Chaired by Eric Schmidt and Jack Hittery, the CEO. We do a lot of AI and quantum. We also have an education piece where we do some EdTech. It's pro bono work. We've created something called RAGs that go on top of large learning models for education. So a RAG is a retrieval augmented generator. And it basically, instead of when you have a large language model that searches the web, you can feed it 1,000 textbooks. So we've created for nurses and doctors specific training based on, with the copyright approval, actually this data, because you can't afford to have mistakes in some of these training models. So RAGs are a new technology that actually help focus for education. You can't afford to have doctors and nurses learning pieces of information that are similar to the Mars experiment.
I want to hear from you, Dr. Kai. How does a successful implementation strategy look like at a government level?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, and that's a key, and I think it's very closely connected to the question that you just asked about how you get learners through these programs. I strongly believe that education is not it's a means to an end, but it's not the end goal. So I think the key, what you have to do is you really have to look at what is the why for the learner. Why is the learner coming to you? Why is the learner learning? And what drives that person? So if you design a program, it's not enough to just say, I'm going to open my doors and here's a whole bunch of content, and it's, in the worst scenario, it's just purely passive content, some videos to watch. You're not going to get good outcomes out of that. But if you create content that's not only engaging and that's interactive, that's all table stakes. Everyone needs to do that. But the key is, how do you connect this now to what the learner is looking for? So if the learner is looking, I mentioned the Egypt example, right? Those are people that are looking for an income. They're looking for, this might be a woman in rural Egypt that's looking for a job that she can do from home, which then kind of showing that pathway into this freelancing career and how that works, helping to set them up and showing the examples and guiding them along that way is key. In other scenarios where it's about building ecosystem, building jobs, how do you connect this with jobs? Or in the example that I brought with Shell, how do you turn those skills that people acquire into a currency that then holds value for the learner, because it then gives them these projects, these ideas that they want to get into. I have maybe one example from a government organization. We work with the Department of Defense in the United States. And they had exactly this challenge. They came to us and said, hey, we have all these learning programs, but like, how do we get people engaged? How do we do it? So what our team came up with is they came up with the idea of having basically like a Shark Tank type of setting. So I hope everyone knows that TV show. I'm seeing a lot of people nodding, that's good. So where the learners then could go ahead and they had a conference where they could pitch ideas to senior leaders at the DoD. And what happened is they got exposure to senior leadership. They also were driving a ton of innovation because they came up with great ideas. And then senior leadership at the DoD took those ideas, got behind them, and turned them into a lot of real projects that now these learners could actually go run and get done. And this gave them exposure, it showed them there's a career path, and these stories then create a culture of learning and innovation that just keeps going. And just to give one example of a project that came out of this is they're now developing a system where they're using machine learning and AI to detect counterfeit spare parts. Again, that's probably something that would have never been, they never would have come up with this in the ivory tower.
And this can be applied also in the private sector, in your projects with the private sector. You have done something successful that you can share with us?
Yes, we've done this many times, and I just shared the example of Shell, with whom we've done many projects. And the key for us is always when we work with an organization is not it's not to come in and say, okay, you have learning needs, here's the capabilities, that's it. But we try to understand what is the strategic problem that our partner is trying to solve, and how can then these capabilities pay into solving these problems. And that connection is really what from my perspective is key, both to drive value in an organization, to be strategic, but also to drive that value for an individual. So, and we've done projects where we also have a customer in the healthcare space who's using us to build their team up to use AI for skin cancer detection. And so there's many of these projects, but the key is to be strategic, both for the company, but also have that strategic relevance for the individual.
Thank you. Rosemary, as an AI expert, what kind of critical skills that you would like EdTech companies to teach that you don't see right now or you don't find right now on a university level?
I think, actually, just to finish the point that Kai was talking about, I think the culture of experimentation for leadership is really, really important. And that's a little bit about what you've given some great examples. And I think we need to encourage people who are here to go back and to be able to experiment a little bit. Often learning, it can be very rote. And I think as you bring in AI, first of all, we need to train, whether it's government sector, EdTech, train them about AI. So at Sandbox, we're developing a course of AI on AI so that there is an understanding, a clear understanding from the base up to what the benefits that AI can provide, how to go about it, how to weave it through. You know, we used to talk about have a tech division over here, a technology division, and then it became pervasive. I think it's the same for AI. AI will be pervasive, so it's very important for employees to understand exactly how AI is going to work across all departments and what benefits can come from it.
Thank you so much. One last word, Dr. Kai. What are the critical courses that you're looking to introduce, or you are introducing right now, that are essential for the current workforce to learn for the future?
Yeah, so we've just introduced a set of courses on generative AI, and they have already become kind of the highest, most in-demand courses on the platform. Those courses, and as you just highlighted, what we're doing is we have what we call discovery and fluency level courses, which are more entry level. We have the deep nano degree level that really gets you to a practitioner level. And we have courses for managers in order to be able to manage teams that do it and do that translation work. But we also see, and it's interesting, with the rise of the AI courses, we've seen a similar uptick in a lot of basic courses such as Python, etc. And we still see that especially in the B2B world, topics like cloud computing, data analytics are still absolutely essential.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your valuable insights today. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.